Hi friends, welcome back to the She Interviews. I am thrilled to be here with my friend Katy McBrayer. What's going on, Katy?
Hey, how you doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. I am super excited for our listeners to hear about your mom career journey. Katy and I have actually known each other for about 3 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we met because my husband and I were looking for a house in Sarasota. We were playing with the idea of actually moving from New Jersey to Florida. We picked out Sarasota because of the schools. And we came down here and we connected with Katy over social media. And Katy is actually the first person that I met in Sarasota. She's become a dear friend to us. And one of the biggest things was I was so impressed by Katy and how she started to take care of us and how professional she was, that now she's a new mom. I needed her to come and share the start of her mom journey because she has such a robust career. We need to know the details. So thank you so much, Katy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Katy, let's start really quick. I want to start with your career right now in present day because you have some pretty impressive things that you've accomplished. How long have you been a realtor?
I think it's been like about 6 years, maybe just over 6 years now.
6 years. Okay, that's fabulous. So you have a bachelor's in political science, right?
Yes.
And you also, since you've started your career in real estate, you've had many recognitions, right? Best of SRQ, Top Realtor 2020, SRQ Magazine Women and a Business winner. And you're the vice president of something called Teen Court of Sarasota, which I want you to tell us about in a little while. So that's amazing. And then this past year, you had like record breaking sales, right?
Yes, this past year we did 30 million in sales.
The 30. When you say we, now you have a team?
Well, no, it was just me, but I do have a person that works with me, Michelle, and so she does help me out a bit. So I say we because she's an awesome little asset to my team, but we don't have like a huge team and send people over the place. It's just me and then her.
Wow. And this happened in the same year that you became a mom.
Yes, I had a baby in April.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So we need to I'm like floored. Like I need to know how did you accomplish this?
It was a lot of work, but I have to say it was still, even though it was so much work, it was probably one of my easiest years yet. So, gearing up year over year, real estate gets somewhat easier and easier to generate business, but I was working more and more, but I was used to working 80 hours a week. I mean, like 70 to 80 hours every week, just nonstop. Um, and so when I found out I was pregnant, that kind of like slowed me down a little bit. Um, but not in business, which was strange. Like I thought it was going to affect my business, and it really didn't. It only made me qualify people better that I was working with because I was more concerned how I was spending my time.
That's
And
interesting.
in that I was working with more qualified people and people that I enjoyed working with and wanted to be around and that were worth, taking the time to spend with them instead of focusing on my pregnancy or my new baby.
That's really interesting. So this event basically was kind of like an instrument for your growth in your business, like taking you as a business leader one step forward and realizing like, hey, I'm working all these hours, but now I have to be mindful of the fact that I'm adding something into my life and I have to start kind of working like a surgeon, right?
Right. And I was already, pretty good at like trying to stay away from doing busy work because I was so busy. But I mean, when you have a baby and when you're trying to like stay unstressed in your pregnancy and stuff, it just becomes that much more important. But it was funny because in the beginning, I didn't realize that. In the beginning, I was like, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to work so hard. And that really translated into more business by just not just focusing on the work that was really important.
That's amazing. That you hear that, ladies? That's an important business lesson, I think.
I didn't expect that. I really didn't. And I thought being pregnant, I would be more stressed. And it was like the least stressed I'd ever been. It's just crazy how it all worked out. Like I knew I was going to be taking on more. So I thought I'm going to be so stressed and being pregnant. I hear it's a stressful thing. And once I was pregnant, the stress kind of went away because I got rid of all the stress, the 80-20 Pareto's principle thing, that 20% that just wasn't worth my time. That was a lot of stress. I kicked that out the window and life got easier.
So, Katy, what you just described to me, this is really interesting. A lot of times we talk about, and this is what I learned from our coach, Elizabeth Nader, making decisions out of faith and making decisions out of fear. And I think what you just did there was you made decisions out of faith. You're like, this is my situation, and this is how I'm going to course correct to make sure that I have self-care. I'm not biting off more than I can chew. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to make decisions, be confident in those decisions, that these are the things that are most important for my business. And in doing that, you had your results multiplied because you were making those decisions out of faith. Does that make sense?
100%. And I have friends and family members and people I talk to all the time that are fearful that they can't do a job and have a child. And I feel like I mean, there was no way I love my business. I was like, I don't know if I can have a child, so I was going to move forward and I wanted to try to make it work. I thought it would be stressful. And I feel like I found paradise because I got the best of both worlds. I kept my identity and who I am and what's important to me, but at the same time, I get to have this lovely, beautiful daughter and a family now, and I'm very excited about that. And so I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I'm glad I tried. And the way that it did work out is really the more than I could have ever asked for. It's better than I thought it could have been.
So you were really established in your career. I just want to clarify this for our viewers. You were pretty established in your career before you had your baby.
Yes. I had done, like a couple years before 15 million and then 20 million and, 25. But I did think that it was going to affect my sales and they would go down and I wouldn't have as much time, especially because, at one point I had 4 or 5 people working with or under me. And so now it's just one person. And for me and this person to be able to like qualify the people we're working with and make sure we're working with people that we like and that we enjoy being around and that we want to carve time, because she has 2 boys too, carve time out of our family time to do. We've both been able to do very well.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. And I wasn't, the reason I asked you that question, I wasn't trying to take away from the fact that like there was worry when the baby came, but I wanted to clarify for our viewers because, when we have kids, sometimes it's before we start our career, right in the middle of it, or like even like when we're just starting to figure it out. So like for me, like we got married 20 days later, I franchised my first business. And then like another 20 days later, I found out I was pregnant. So like I was learning how to do both of those things at the same time. So I was in a very different mindset than like maybe if I had already owned my newspaper for like 3 years and then had the baby.
Right.
So you were able to make decisions based on your previous experience already being established in.
Correct.
Yeah. So is that something that you would recommend for women?
If possible, you know what I mean? Like that's not always possible. Everything's not
Yeah.
always planned. If you can, that's great because then it's easier to qualify when you have enough people coming in that you can qualify who you want to work with and who you don't. But if it's a new business and you're trying to generate people, I can see how you would have like a little bit of a different mindset when it came to that.
What do you think it would have been like if you had Vivian, right?
Uh-huh.
I was about to call her Viviana. I was going to give her a little Latin feel. How do you think it would have been if you had Vivian in your first year of launching your real estate business?
It would have been stressful. And so, but I still think it would have been very possible because like a lot of my work is over the phone, right? So I would still have to have like childcare like I do now, because even though I work from home and my husband's like, well, you didn't go into work today, like I'm still working. But you need the childcare so that you can like take a step away from the baby, focus. You don't have somebody crying in the background causing that anxiety and the tension and like, oh, I need to get to my baby. So that's it. That's really important. But I think, you would still be able to do it. You would just need maybe some more help on the weekends from friends or family and stuff like that. But I think it's still possible. It's just, it is a little bit easier because I am working with so many people that I can qualify who I do not work with.
Man, you like every time you talk about your business, I just feel like you are operating this thing like a surgeon, and that's amazing. But you didn't always operate in life like that, right? Like you have a little story that I want you to share with us, because right now you are actually the vice president of something called Teen Court of Sarasota, which we're going to talk about this offline, but I'm very fascinated about what this organization does, because, I was a rebel teen too. And like,
Yes.
so like, can you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of like where you were and how,
Yes. I got into a lot of trouble when I was younger. I was in International Baccalaureate program. Like, I was very gifted and school was important to me, but I met an older guy and I got involved with the wrong crowds and I started using drugs, and he was selling drugs. And I had a younger sibling in the home. And so my parents were like, you have to get out of the house. So I was sleeping sometimes on the streets and abandoned houses. I had stolen my mom's gun. I was in a very, very bad place, and I was, manipulated by an older guy. And I was 15 in the crux of it all. And he, put ideas in my head that my parents were bad and that drugs were great. And I really lost my way. And teen court saved my life. It is so for somebody who gets arrested and it's like a first or second or third time offense, and it's a nonviolent offense, you can go through this program called Teen Court. We're a civil citation program, and we have something for everybody. So we have risky behaviors classes for kids who are sexting or vaping, and then we have substance abuse classes for people who are using drugs, and we have therapy that's provided by a psychiatrist for families or just for individuals, and it can be completely free. Of all the people that come through, 70% of the kids are below the poverty level, and it's an amazing program. So what happens is you go in as the offending teen instead of going through the regular court system, and all of the teens are defending and prosecuting attorneys, jurors, the clerk, and the bailiff, and most of these are volunteers from schools within the community. So they're getting community service hours for Bright Futures, which is something that we have in Florida, or for their school and things like that. And they give each other the consequences. And it's really amazing, because then these teens who are in trouble have to come back and do jury duties and act as jurors and give sentencing to other kids. It's just beautiful, the stuff that they come up with. It's so thoughtful, sometimes better than what adults can come up with as consequences for kids. And when I went through our substance abuse program, which is called Camp X-Grade, which stands for Examining Realities About Your Decisions. And we go to the morgue and see photos of drug-related deaths. We go now to Salvation Army with the Viper program and talk to people who are coming out of an experience that has really, they're trying to get their life back on track together. Again, we go to Sarasota Memorial Hospital and they talk about drug overdose and what happens when somebody comes through, and they get to see the ER and the operating room and stuff. And when I went through, the doctor recognized me and said, as a teen, and said, "I know you." And I was like this little punk. I thought I was so tough. I was like, "You don't know me." And he's like, "I pumped your stomach last year." And it was something that had happened to me that I completely blocked from my memory. I didn't have any recollection of. And I think this happens to a lot of kids when they go through some serious events. They block them out and they do not remember them. And so they're not like making decisions based on like these experiences that are happening in their lives. And I was paying attention, that really made me start listening. And at the end of the day, we always have somebody come and speak about a family member or somebody who had a family member, a young person in their life who was passed away due to drugs. And the guy that did spoke about his daughter, Cassie, and he tells a story about this girl who's 15 who went to Riverview, who was a cheerleader. It was my story word for word. It was verbatim. And, he goes on to say that she went to a party and she overdosed, and her friends dropped her off at the ER and drove away, and she ended up passing away. And he had to deal with that as a father, and listening to a father tell the story. He is my superhero, because I can't imagine how difficult it would be to bring a story like that over and over up in your life just to help people, like out of the goodness of his heart. But that saved my life. And when I moved back to Sarasota 7 years ago, I decided to get involved, and they asked me to be on the board. And it has been the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life, that I get to be a part of something that was so great in my life, and really take something that was a negative experience for me and turn it into something beautiful.
Wow, that is so amazing. So that's like kind of what you were dealing with. And could you have ever imagined, when you were going through that in your life, that, fast forward to today, you would be like doing what you're doing now, a mom, a role model, giving back in teen court?
So you don't realize when you're going through like extreme adversity as a child that it really does toughen your skin and make you a strong person in the future. And I'm grateful for every experience I've ever had that gave me tough skin, and it really did. But I could no, I couldn't have imagined that. I definitely could have. And my husband works for the sheriff's office. So I'm married to somebody who works for the sheriff's office. I'm the vice president of teen court. I never ever. I live in Sarasota where I grew up. I never would have imagined those things ever, and I'm really grateful. And when I moved back, it's interesting because teen court saved my life as a teen. I went off to college, traveled the world, did a bunch of stuff, got into a relationship that I wasn't so happy with, moved back to Sarasota. And when I moved back, they asked me to participate and get involved in teen court again and be on the board. And it was like it saved my life all over again. I had lost purpose in my life, which felt like I didn't have any meaning, to it. And so being involved with teen court, it really like brought purpose and meaning back into my life and lit a little fire in me. And it's, when I was having a bad day at work, I felt like at least I have teen court, like it gave me something to really be passionate about.
Yeah, because absolutely, because everybody needs purpose in their life. I think that's one of the defining things between people that are depressed and people that, I don't want to say happy because no one's ever happy all the time, but people that are generally happy, that's usually the defining thing is having something of self-worth and purpose. So that's awesome.
It's awesome.
So why real estate?
Growing up, I tried like office jobs and they just were not for me. I do not like being told what to do, that it comes from like the experiences I went through as a kid. I don't like it. I sometimes feel like I can get things done in a very short amount of time. So, a salary job is not for me. If I get things done in 2 hours, I don't want to be jailed to an office and not be able to go do what other stuff and, get some other things done. So, and I was always interested in real estate and investing. And, I had no money when I got into real estate. So, why not become a realtor and then, get into real estate investing? What better than to learn the market,
right,
that I want to be investing in. And so that's exactly what ended up happening. I saved enough money. I ended up buying some short-term rentals. So I have my own personal short-term rentals. And then I also have my real estate business buying and sell, helping buyers and sellers in Sarasota. So, it worked out kind of exactly how I'd planned without having, really planned it.
Okay. So what were you apprehensive? Where you're like, oh, I'll just try this thing out? Or like, when did you know that you were going to like really be passionate about this and dig your heels into it?
I love math. So that's just strange, but I like love math since I was really young. And so real estate is a lot about math. And that just got me into it, like being able to decipher like what was a good deal and what wasn't, and what the appreciation would be, and being able to invest in rentals and how that works out over time. And that was all very interesting to me. So I just love that. And I like doing the same for other people. Finding them not only like a good house, but like making sure it's like a good investment.
Okay. That makes sense to me. All right. So you like the math that keeps your brain busy doing what your mind likes to do. And then it's also very important for you to bring value to other people. So if you're able to use your talent to bring value to other people, I think that's why you're so good with your clients, right?
Well, and it's funny too, people get into real estate or jobs like this where like it's not a 9 to 5 and you think, oh, I'm going to be able to have like plenty of time to do what I want to do and hang out with my family, and you end up working more because you love it, because the more you work, the more you build for yourself, and it's like it's an investment in you instead of in someone else's business. And so that is funny. You think you're going to work less and you work more, but you love it.
Well, yes. And I think you just really described a lot of components of an entrepreneur. I mean, you definitely are an entrepreneur at heart. And I think sometimes, that's really just something that people are born with, like you can't imagine being tied to someone else's schedule. You can't imagine having someone else tell you what to do. And a lot of times I don't really think it's about authority. I mean, right? Like you're a law abiding citizen. It's not about authority. It's about being able to step out of the box, right?
Yes.
Like think outside of the box.
But also I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, like being an entrepreneur springs out of some kind of disaster that happened in your life, like divorce or being laid off, or like a lot of times that happens because you had enough and now you want to do something for yourself. You're like, I don't. So not necessarily authority, but more independence and freedom.
Yeah.
Like you just get to a point where you're like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do for myself. And then you realize how much you like working for yourself and you
I
work a
gotta be
lot.
me. I gotta be me.
Yeah.
Old Sammy Davis Jr. song. I gotta be me. That's, I love it. Oh my gosh, this is just so full of wisdom and inspiration for women right now that are trying to figure out what they want to do. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. Oh my gosh. So where do you see yourself in like the next 3 years? Before you answer that question, I gotta just share with our viewers a really funny story. The first time that I met Katy, she was taking us to, it was like 3 years ago, she was taking us to look at some houses. And at the time, I think Charlie, my oldest, was 3.5. Keegan was 2. And then did we have the baby? I was pregnant
No,
with him.
you were
Right?
pregnant. Yeah.
I was pregnant. And they were just like little monkeys, literally like swinging on the chandeliers.
Yeah.
And Katy, at the time, not married, she was dating Jim, not married, all, perfectly all done up. And she's watching me pull my hair out, like cursing under my breath. And she's like, I can't wait to have like 5 kids. So I've been dying to ask you, now that you have a kid and you are where you are in your career, like, do you still feel that way?
I don't think 5. I think 5 is a little much. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember that?
I do. Yes. Oh gosh, I do. But I also remember like watching your boys and being like, wow, they're crazy.
They are crazy.
But all the kids, they're so crazy. But it's good. They, that means they're excited. They're glad to be alive. But yeah, 5's a little much now, I think.
Okay. All right. So now you can answer my question. Where do you see yourself in like, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Where are you heading?
So I always think that's a hard question to answer because I have been asked that question a lot. And for me, as I plan my goals, I really try to keep my goals, what am I looking for in the next month and the next 6 months and the next year, because life is so always changing and so are your priorities. And I feel like it's like when you're sailing and you get to one point and then you have to like kind of analyze where you're at and like reset your course and where you're going to go. That is really just how it is. Like it's always changing. If I have no idea, because I've tried to set 3 and 5 year goals, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just never works out. So if I had to, oh God, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And the reason is because I feel like when I set closer goals, and I always reach my goals, I always write them down at the beginning of the year, and my God, I always blow them out of the water. And I always think they're crazy, like, so I always write down my goals. I think that's super important, but closer, like within a year. I don't know.
No,
because it's always better than I expect. So I hate to like set something, right? Because, I hope I've sold this many houses, or that like I'm at this point in my life, because it is always better than I ever expected it to be. So I don't know, but I'm excited. I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 to 5 years, but I'm excited about it.
I love that answer. Like your answer just keeps getting better and better. So first of all, I think that is really wise of you to say, I don't know. And your explanation is perfect, right? Because we always have to be course correcting, because there's so many different variables in our life that come up when we don't expect it. And it's new information, right? So when we get new information, we're like, this is new. Like, does it make sense for me to keep doing what I'm doing? Or does it make sense for me to like now go this direction? And I love the analogy you gave with the boat. And I think this is wonderful advice for women, because, and that's part of the reason that I asked this question, because we're so used to being asked, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And it's like, I don't freaking know what's going to happen the next 10 years. Right. So what the answer that you gave just has so much wisdom. And I'm really hoping that our viewers will take that to heart, that to not get discouraged, about having these grandiose things and how are you going to get there, and feel really overwhelmed. Because I love how you said, like I always like to say to people, like, how do you eat an elephant, right? You take one bite at a time. And you making those like shorter term goals are doing a few things. Like, first of all, they're more obtainable, because it's less likely that something so crazy is going to happen in that amount of time. But then the other reason is that when we reach smaller goals, we're now giving our brain more and more evidence that we can be successful.
Right.
So that as time goes on, it's like the compound effect. As time goes on, we can make those bigger and bigger goals. And you're just like living proof and evidence. You're just the way that you're speaking. It's like your mindset is pouring out to us. You're like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years, but it's going to be awesome. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years, but I'm excited. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's, you've trained your, basically like your brain waves and your neuropaths to believe that you are going to steer the ship where it needs to be steered. And that is amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
Did I get that right?
Yes, that's what I work on. I mean, every day, it is a struggle to get there in your mind. And I work on that every day. And so, yes, I'm glad I mean, it's fulfilling that you tell me that, because that is specifically what I work on, is to try to overcome your brain and where it tries, because it's always telling you negative stuff and beating you down. And it's just like, it's so hard to get past that. But once you do, it's just a whole new life.
Exactly. Do you have any resources that you've used to work on your brain that you can share with us? Or like, what do you do?
I will give you a list of books. I don't have them in front of me, so I can't think of all of them, but like, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. That's a great book. Just like reset yourself. There's another one called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
I read that.
That is such a great book. It's like reset your expectation for yourself, like mentally, like, we just are so hard on ourselves. And like, once you can let go of how hard you are, and we're our worst critic, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing to get over. And then you want to know the greatest thing that ever changed my life. It's so silly, but Alexa, one day, listen, it sounds crazy. But, oh, sorry. There she is. Shh. But one day I usually say, like, start my day, and it would tell you the news and the weather, whatever. Well, one day I accidentally said, start my morning, because I did it every time when I was in the morning getting ready. And she said, she goes through these 5 steps. And like, the first step was, like 1 minute of meditation. It was just quick 60 seconds, like, don't think about anything. And then the second step was visualization, like visualize the things that you want. And the third step was affirmations. And I'd never done that before. It's like, it was different. The affirmations she gave were different every day, and they were all great. Like, I can be myself with my, with my partner, or I feel good about myself today. I'm free of stress and anxiety. The fourth one was things that you're grateful for. Name 5 things. And the last one was, what are your 3 priorities for the day? And I'm like, this is great. I'm going to do this. And it set a habit for me. And now I spend like 20 or 30 minutes every morning doing that. And I do it without her. And I, get in the zone and like think about those things. And it really is, that has really changed my life too, because that is really in your head. And it's funny, because in the beginning I would always say, I don't have enough time to do this.
Yes.
You don't have enough time not to do that in the morning. I'll tell you that, because you're organizing your day, you're naming what you're grateful for. It's really setting the tone for the rest of your day, the rest of your week, the rest of your year. Those things are all really important.
Well, let me tell you something, Katy. In talking to you today, I mean, previous conversations, I already knew it, but especially talking to you today and hearing what you had to say about all the questions that I had, there is evidence upon evidence upon evidence of why you are so successful. And I can only imagine you're going to continue to be successful in career, in life, and as a mom. And, I hope that we're able to do like a recap, maybe in 3 years from now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, revisit this interview, see if you have those 5 kids. No, I'm kidding. See if we have any more mom stories to tell. I appreciate your time so much. And so do our viewers. Thank you so much for telling your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely. You're amazing.
Thank you. All right, everyone. We will see you next time on the She Interview.